it's just announced that we're recording. That's different.
It says to me, by continuing to be in this meeting, you are consenting to be recorded. Continue. Well, I might not continue.
Might just not bother. Might not want to be in your recording, Alex.
Look at Zoom adding things on, the cheeky little buggers.
I know. Anyway, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Are you?
Yeah, I'm 2 years sober today. Woohoo!
You are 2 years sober. Congratulations.
Thank you. You know what? It's lovely. I'm normally a proper big dealer about everything. Like if I like burp, I celebrate it. Do you know what I mean? I'm a proper little like that. But I just feel really kind of not weird. Weird's the wrong word because I feel good about it, but I feel quite calm about it. Like what am I celebrating it for? It's just normal now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's lovely that it's become normal. But I have noticed that you haven't commented on my lovely heartfelt post that I put up for you today.
I will. I promise you I will. I've just not really
been it's all right. You can do it now. Like, just a thanks will be all right.
Thank you
don't
for the
worry
beautiful
about it, okay?
No, I do. I thank you. The reason I haven't commented is because it is actually really, 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 really nice what you've said. And I need to think about it and not be rushing around and putting a comment on in between running to cheerleading and eating Marmite on toast. Just won't be right.
No, it is an incredible achievement. And I genuinely meant what I said. Like, when I decided to go sober, I just never thought in a million years that my best friend would join me in it. And it's just been the most incredible journey. And I'm so proud of you because it's not just being sober. We always say this, like sober is so much more than just ditching the drink, and everything that you've been through, and anybody that has listened to the podcast to get us to this point will know that we've been through some challenges, and you in particular have really like kind of took them on, got through it and supported other people at the same time, which is just amazing. So you should be so proud of yourself. I'm dead proud of you. I really am.
Well, now I feel like shit not commenting, but thank you. I will comment. But you know what else as well?
You don't have to. That's what I'm saying. We've done it now.
But you know what else? Yeah, but nobody will. Well, no, it's not going to be a false one. It's just going to reiterate what I've said, because the thing is that people won't hear this till Saturday and they'll think, what an ignorant cow, she hadn't commented. So they won't know that we've had this conversation.
That's what I thought this morning. But,
but what I did think was I went on, and I can't believe how many people... Do you know, like, this is what's so special about the sober community. People genuinely raise you up. You know, like, they love everybody on Instagram. I can't speak for everyone on Instagram, but everyone in the kind of sober circle on Instagram loves to raise each other up. Like, they're the posts that get the most kind of likes and comments, aren't they, when we're celebrating somebody or something that someone's done.
Which is so lovely. And actually, let's talk about that for a minute, because if there is anybody listening that has gone sober and they've like maybe put it on their own social media or Facebook, there's a big freaking difference, right, between putting something like this on like your Instagram where you're surrounded with other sober people to celebrating something like on your normal Facebook where people perhaps don't understand the actual like reasons or how amazing and incredible 2 years is. Do you know what I mean? Or a year or a month, freaking hell,
even a day. But the thing is, right, I was speaking to my auntie yesterday, and I said to her, I'll be 2 years without a drink tomorrow, and she went, oh, well done, and she meant it. She absolutely meant well done. And I thought, it's much more than well done. It is. And I know that's kind of, I didn't want her to say more than that, but I thought it really is much more. It's like against all the odds. It's against the grain completely. It's against the marketing. It's against the general message that goes out there that you need to have a drink to have fun, that you need to have a drink to unwind. And when you learn those skills of how to be without alcohol, that's what's life-changing. That is what is the life-changing pink cloud bit. You're not always happy, and you know, at the beginning maybe you are, and you will fall off that cloud at times, but the pink cloud is knowing that no matter what life throws at you, you don't need a drink to cope with it. I'm not saying you would never go to drink, but you don't need it. There isn't.
You get to a point where, do you not think you get to a point where you think, this is when I would have had a drink?
Yeah.
Rather than thinking I want a drink, you just think, I I'd have had one at this point, or I'm feeling a little bit uneasy, I'd have picked up a drink at this point. And I think when you get there, like you said, it is ridiculously life-changing.
It's mad.
I can't believe it. Like, it just still shocks me to this day how life-changing stopping drinking can be. And I wasn't an everyday drinker. Mine was genuinely binge drinking at a weekend. Like, who'd have thought that could make such a difference? And this is why normal people are normal people, is that right? I don't think
Are we normal people?
Well, no, not really. But they're not normal anyway, because they're drinking. but the people that drink don't understand, or they think, oh my God, you must have been an alcoholic, you must have been on it every single day to see such a difference in it. But it's not. It just changes everything. And I still haven't found a way to articulate it properly.
No, I get this, and I get it even more the longer I go. And you know, when somebody said the other day, I think it was one of our members at the picnic in the park, said, I've just realised that I might as well have been pouring petrol down my throat.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's so true, not necessarily about the petrol bit, but ethanol is just ethanol. And when you really see it for its truth, you're poisoning yourself. There's no wonder we get hangovers. There's no wonder we get sick. There's no wonder that we get dry mouths and we try not to put it in our body. Do you know what I mean? Your body does not want that crap in there. It doesn't want it. And so, of course, when you take it out in any quantity, you benefit. It don't matter how little you were having, because it wasn't meant to be there. If it were meant to be there, we'd make it in our bodies.
And how much credit do we give a flipping drink of liquid? Like, we give it all this credit. We get, like, I feel like I was an absolute crazy person, but I feel awake. I feel like I have awoken to a completely new life of, like, looking back at when people were drinking from such a young age, from weddings, funerals, holidays, sitting there, placing my glass like dead pretty and getting a good view to take a picture of it, and giving this one drink credit for my whole entire holiday.
I know. All of it, everything. Like,
all of it.
Going out for a meal, having to plan your whole evening around who's going to drive and where you're going to go, not going to places because it's too far. Like, when you'd really actually want to be there if you didn't have to drive, just so you can have a drink.
It's just so bizarre. It is like waking up, innit?
I'm so sorry that I just pulled that face. Ooh.
I know, I did one before.
So let's introduce our guest. Now, actually, we know very little about our guest today, which is kind of good. And I'm going to, if the member this morning that said that I've got my posh voice on is listening, here comes the posh voice. This is as posh as it gets, guys. So we've got Sarah Rusbatch. She actually lives in Australia now, but she was born in Manchester, so that'll be interesting. She runs a global community for women looking to live their best lives. She's actually a women's health and wellness coach. So let's hear from her. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, we're really grateful that you're coming on. We've just been saying that you're originally from Manchester, but I'm right in saying you're out in Australia now.
That's right. So I'm from Altrincham in South Manchester. And then I've been living, So I've been living out in Western Australia for coming up to 11 years.
Wow.
I can actually hear a very slight Australian accent developed.
No, don't say that.
You have, definitely.
And that no was definitely Australian.
So what took you out to Australia?
So I married a Kiwi boy, and I met him when I was backpacking around Australia, and then I'd gone back to the UK. We were living in London. He came back, we got married, we had a baby, and then he said, I can't stay here. I need to go and live by the beach and be in the sunshine. And I was kind of not quite ready to go to New Zealand, which is a big, big change to London. So we decided to kind of settle halfway and ended up in Perth, which is a beautiful place to live. It's very, very laid back. We've got great weather and beaches, but we didn't really think it through that well, because it meant that we would move into the other side of the world with a baby and no support and no parents on either side of the family to help us. And so we had to kind of do it all our own. So it was, it was a bit of a learning curve, but we got there.
You've
Oh,
obviously
that's
made a success of
incredible.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no, it's
really
been good.
So can we ask a little bit, because obviously, you know, you got in touch with us and you're a women's health and wellness coach, and that's kind of what we know, if we're honest, that's what we know. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your story, about your journey, and what brought you to this point?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I grew up in Manchester in the 90s, a story that I'm sure you've heard a lot before about the, you know, we had so many strong female role models telling us all that we could drink as much as the men, and I wore my drinking as a badge of honour. Went through university where it was, you know, 60p a pint and all the rest of it, and you'd stand on tables and chug down the pints and, you know, think that you were as good as the boys and all the rest of it. And then moved to London, where, I mean, my first job interview was in the pub to see how well I could handle my booze. So it was kind of always going to be downhill from there. I'd always had, I was always classed as quite a big drinker, and I loved getting pissed. I loved getting, you know, drinking was my thing. It was what I did well. It was kind of what I wore as my badge of honor. And, you know, you do a lot of work on yourself, I think, once you do go down the sobriety path. And looking back now, I can see that for me, it was, I'd moved around quite a lot as a young kid. And I was thinking the other day, by the time I was 12, I'd been to 5 different schools. And I think I'd always wanted to fit in. I'd always been looking for belonging. And what I think I realized when 14, 15, when I started drinking, was that's when I felt like I started to create connections. When I was sat around getting pissed with other girls, that was kind of when I felt included, and I felt like I belonged, and I didn't feel like the weird one that had just joined the school or whatever. And so I think I very quickly, looking back, associated alcohol with connection, with making friends, with fitting in. And then the same thing happens, you go to university, and the way that you make friends is in Freshers Week, getting smashed in the pub. And then I moved to London. My job interview was in the pub. The way I made friends was through drinking. And so I think for me that kind of association started at quite an early stage and then really stayed with me. But I was always probably quite a big binge drinker, but no more than anyone else. You know, like looking back, okay, I was probably the one the next day that when everyone else was going, oh my God, I feel really rough, I can't drink, I'd be like, come on, let's go back down the pub and have hair of the dog, it'll make us feel better.
Yeah.
So there was definitely that in me that wasn't in other people. And there was definitely in me more of a kind of, let's keep the party going. I didn't want to go home. I wanted to keep it going. But then I think for me, when it really kind of perhaps changed a little bit was when we moved to Perth, and I'd gone from having a very successful career in London, very close friends, to moving to the other side of the world with a 9-month-old baby, and not having any friends and not having any family, and my husband going out to work. And then I got pregnant pretty much as soon as we got here. So then I had two, an 18-month-old and a newborn. And that was really, really hard. And I would say that was when I got fully sucked into mummy wine culture. And I fully kind of got into that. Oh, it's 5 o'clock, I deserve a drink. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. That was my friend, because the days were long and they were boring and they were tedious. And that's when I kind of was really lonely and I missed all my friends and my family. And so for me, what I'd always known as a way to make connections was to go and get pissed with people. But the problem was that most of the other people I was meeting, they didn't want to do that because they had newborn babies, and they would look at me like, what do you mean you want to go and get drunk? But that was the only way I knew how to do it. So it was funny time for me. And that was probably when the drinking became more of a companion and a friend, as opposed to just binge drinking going out. So that carried on for a few years, and I seemed to always be able to hunt out the other drinkers. I'd always find the people that were the ones at the party, that were the people to hang out with. But slowly but surely, it started kind of just taking more than it was giving. My hangovers just were lasting so much longer. My anxiety was really starting to go to a level that I was really uncomfortable with. Like by this point, my kids were at school, and we live really close to the school. But there were days when I had to get in the car and drive the kids to school because I couldn't bear the thought of walking and bumping into someone, because I was so hungover and paranoid, and my anxiety was through the roof. You know, they talk about like hangxiety and that feeling the next day. And I just remember there was one day I was really hungover and I was lying on the sofa, and it was a Sunday, and the kids were like watching telly, and I was like, there has to be another way of living. There has to be something else that's going on. And I just happened to be scrolling Facebook, and someone in my running group had done a post saying that they'd read the Annie Grace book, This Naked Mind. So that was back in 2017. So I read the book, and I went, that's it, I'm going to take a break from booze. And I did 3 months. Wow. And then I thought, I'm fixed. That's it. I've done 3 months off. I clearly don't
common.
So I'm just like, it's all okay now. There is no problem. So I took 3 months off. And you know what, girls? Like, for the first time in my life, really, I got to know who I was without alcohol. And I really liked her because she was calmer and she was happier and she had mental clarity and she had energy. And it was really eye-opening. But at the same time, I had that other kind of pull going, but there's no way you can't ever drink again. That would just be ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I just thought, I'm fine now. I'm fixed. I've done 3 months off. I can't possibly have a problem, because if I did, I wouldn't be able to take 3 months off. So I'll go back to drinking, and now I'll be able to moderate, and now I'll just do it every now and then. But we all know how that ends for most people anyway, and myself included. Within a month, I was back to drinking what I had been before, if not more. And so what followed for me was 2 years of just being stuck in that really grey area of moderating, trying to moderate, taking breaks, doing 100 days off, going back to drinking, and it just carried on for 2 years. And it was a pretty difficult time because I was so confused, because I just had inner turmoil all the time of, I want to be that person that I like, who is such a happier, better person without booze, but I won't have any friends, and how will I socialize, and how will I do anything, because everything I'd ever done in my social life had been around alcohol. So that went on for a while, and then I just reached the point where I just went, it is no more. And I'll tell you who it was. I think, do you know Kate? So I met her through Sober Spring, and Catherine Gray's Sober Spring, Kate, who lives in Liverpool. I'm sure she connected me to you guys once. Anyway, I sent a text going, right, I'm going to, next time I take a break, I'm going to do 6 months off. That's what I remember saying to her, because at this point I'd never done 6 months before. And she went, why are you only going to do 6 months? You're still beholden to alcohol if that's your attitude. You're still saying, my life is better with booze, but I'm going to stop having it for 6 months, but then I'm going to go back to it. And I didn't like what she said, so I kind of was like, bugger off you think you know it all. But of course, she hit a chord, and it was really true. And so then I did some soul searching, and I went, right, I'm going to do at least a year. And so that was April 2019. And that was, the last time that I had a drink. So it's been quite a journey.
Oh, it's amazing.
Incredible.
It's so like the common, like you said, the common story. But to me, that just highlights how many of us are probably stuck in that cycle before we get out of it. I don't think it's kind of like, oh, here we go, another story that's the same. It just shows how many of us who society classes as a normal drinker aren't happy. And don't
Can I just say, I loved listening to you then, Sarah. I could listen, honestly, you just tell your story so well. And I know so many people, like I'm sat here going, yeah. And so many people will relate so much to it. And it's made me really emotional.
You're so emotional lately, Lisa.
I know, I am. It's sobriety. It heightens everything. And I'm so incredibly lucky to meet so many inspirational people that it makes me emotional. I can't help it. But something that you said that massively related to me in particular was the fact that you associated drinking with making friends. And sometimes you don't realise this until you've stopped drinking. And I could feel it. Like, I moved houses, not schools, but houses a lot. And when I was a teenager, drinking just helped me fit in so well. Like, I just thought, this is it. I fit somewhere. This is amazing. And then you don't realise till you've stopped that that's what you've been doing. And I just think drinking takes out the hard work, doesn't it, of meeting people. That's what it does. It instantly gives you that kind of confidence, and you skip all that uncomfortableness. And I just think that's something that I massively relate to. It's just, aren't we dead lucky?
That's why we like Zoom now, I reckon, Lisa, because you were saying this yesterday. We were saying this yesterday. One of our new ambassadors said yesterday, give me a Zoom anytime over wine. And we were both kind of laughing about it, but it's so true. Zoom for sober people has taken out a lot of social anxiety because you can get all the kind of nerves out before you meet people in real life. So there you go. That's why sober people are loving Zoom, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So how do you find it then? Do you know other sober people in Perth?
So that was the weird thing. So I was in a Facebook group from the start of my 2017 journey, and that was pretty much all people in the UK, because I didn't know anybody in Australia. Like the alcohol-free movement coming to Australia has been so much later and so much slower. So they haven't, you know, like how you've got all of the club soda events and all of those wonderful festivals and soberistas and all of that, which is just brilliant. We have nothing like that on the West Coast. They do a little bit on the East Coast in Sydney and Brisbane and stuff, but nothing over West. So because don't you find once you give up alcohol, particularly if I think I'm a type A person, that I don't ever do moderation very well. I'm all or nothing. So when I stopped drinking, it was like, wow, what shall I do with all of this energy and enthusiasm and excitement? So I retrained to be a health and wellness coach. I then went on to do grey area drinking coaching accreditation with Jolene Park in the States. And then I'm now an accredited grey area drinking coach. I'm a women's wellness coach, and I've set up Perth's first sober socials meetup group. So I've got
well done.
Thank you. So there's 450 women in the group here in Perth, and it's growing all the time the more that I spread the word about it. And just to show you how little this is talked about in Australia, I had an article go into a national kind of online magazine over here in Australia in March, just sharing my story, just talking about the fact that I'd been a grey area drinker. It had been robbing me of so much in my life. I'd chosen to stop drinking. And I'll tell you what, girls, after that article went online, I had 1,700 women get in touch with me in 2 days.
Wow. That's given me goose pimples. I just like, how incredible is that? Like what Alex was saying before, we just don't realise. I just think it's such a brave thing to do, to be talking about your journey and sobriety, because people instantly think, oh, they must have been an alcoholic or they must have been really bad. But that is such an incredible amount of people.
Yeah. And that just goes to show how few people are talking about it over here. The fact that my story, I ended up on the front page of the local newspaper, and I'm like, okay, it's good to get the publicity, but all I did was stop drinking. That's not front page news. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's amazing.
Yeah, but it is, isn't it? Because it's so ingrained in our society that it's a normal thing to do. Like, you know, one day I think we'll look back and you'll proper laugh at that made, because it'll be so much more normal to stop drinking. You'll be like, oh my God, it was actually front page news that somebody stopped drinking. In fact, realistically, that is crackers, in it.
I know. Like, really, like, what kind of world are we living in where someone, a 45-year-old mum of 2, decides to stop drinking and that's front page news?
It's good though. But it is also a really positive thing, especially if it brought all those people to come knocking on your door saying, I want some of that, help me, you know, like, that's amazing. And to bring that whole movement over to Australia, you know, it is front page news. I'm having it that it's front page news.
You know, when you first stopped, was there anything in particular that you found really difficult?
I felt really alone. I felt just really alone, and I found it hard. The hardest thing was other people's reaction, because I think looking back now, and the work that I've done in my coaching and everything else, I think people, they put you in a box and they have a classification in terms of your friends. So, okay, that's Sarah, she's my drinking friend, and that so-and-so friend is my walking friend, and that so-and-so friend is my school friend. So for lots of my friends, I was their drinking friend. So when I became a non-drinker, they didn't have a box to put me in. So they almost had to get to know me again as a different person, as I had to get to know them. And so I'm not saying this in any way to be derogatory to any of my friends, because there is no rule book for how to deal with this, but it is a big change when what you've done is get pissed with someone all the time and then that person's not drinking anymore. Then it's like, well, what are the boundaries for this friendship now? And I was going through my own stuff anyway with not drinking, and you know what it's like in the first few months. You're high as a kite one minute, you're in the crying your eyes out the next, and you're all over the place. And then throwing in, I would find out that, you know, people had met up and done things that I hadn't been invited to because I wasn't drinking. And that can be quite hurtful. And I don't think anyone intended to hurt me, because they were probably thinking, well, Sarah's not going to want to come because she's not drinking. But it takes you back to that like schoolgirl in the playground at 7 years old who hasn't been picked to play the game or something, you know. So there was a lot of emotions that you have to deal with in those early days.
You know, we talk about that. We talk about that though, don't we? Because Lisa was on her own for a full year before, and really on her own for a full year before I decided to get sober, and we've been friends for a very long time. And thankfully, I've not experienced that, because I've had a sober friend with me throughout my journey. So it intrigues me. I can see how it would happen. There's things that I don't get invited to by my drinking friends, but I've got that sober friend. And I think that is why connection is so important when you're setting out on sobriety, because the only way you're going to survive this is with people who get you and who get it.
Yeah, totally.
I think in the beginning I was like, I massively relate to everything you're saying.
You do, don't you? I can see you going
like so much. Honestly, it's the same. But the loneliness, and it's kind of like you don't want to be going out with these groups of people because you're not feeling that you've got that much in common, although you like them and love them or whatever. But then you want to be on your own, but then you feel really on your own, and then you don't know who you are or what you enjoy or what you like, and that it's like the beginning of this incredible journey, but it's scary and it's lonely. And I think I'll never ever forget that the first 6 months in particular of trying to find myself and thinking, this is what it is like, learning to love yourself, to like yourself, to know what you want. It's difficult, isn't it? And I think that's why we're so passionate about what we do with Be Sober, in connecting people. The fact that we can give somebody connection from day one hopefully helps take that out. And that's what you're doing, I suppose, with your group. I just think it's incredible. You should be so proud of yourself.
It's that whole thing what you were saying though as well, when you're trying to set new boundaries in your friendships, and you're trying to learn, you know, how you're going to be around those people. You're trying to learn how you're going to be with yourself. So there's no wonder people don't get you, is there? Because you really don't know yourself. You're absolutely right. You've got to learn. You've got to start where you started drinking. That's what you've got to do. Go back to 14 and go, right, who am I?
And that was the thing. I didn't have any hobbies. Like my hobby was getting pissed, and so it was kind of like, well, what do I like doing with my time, and what lights me up, what fulfills me, what makes me laugh, like, you know, like all of that stuff. You have to go back to the basics, and it can be really scary at times.
I was so scared that I wouldn't know how to laugh again. Honestly, I remember actually thinking, because I'd kind of still go out a little bit and I didn't think things were funny. I was like, that's it. I've lost my sense of humour. I'm never going to laugh, which is ridiculous because I laugh all the time now. But for a good few months, I didn't think anything was funny. Nothing.
But it's because, especially if what you're doing is going out and you're feeling so uncomfortable and clunky and awkward and stuff when everyone's drinking, but you're kind of like going, no, I'm going to show that I can still go out and socialize without a drink and I'm not boring. And then you're kind of going, oh my God, this is so bloody boring. Like, why am I even here? And so it's about finding, people say to me, isn't it really boring going out? And I'm just like, it totally depends who you're with. Like if you're with people that make you laugh and light you up and you have fun with, regardless of whether you're pissed or not, then it's fine. And so of course, over time, I think your friendship groups change anyway, because you want to do different things. Like now, it's not fun for me to sit in a pub for 8 hours drinking glass after glass of wine, whereas a few years ago that was my idea of heaven. So it, you know, everything changes.
Did you find you had loads of time on your hands and you're like, oh, what am I going to do with all this?
Yeah, it was I think it was a little bit time, but I mean, when you've got a job and young kids and everything else, there's never enough, you know, you're busy.
Yeah.
But the thing for me was less about the actual physical time, but more about the headspace that I had. Suddenly I just had all of this headspace, and I just remember talking to one of my best friends in England, and she was like, I think I was about 4 or 5 months sober at that point, and she was like, how do you feel? And I said, the only way I can describe it is that I feel I'm on the cusp of just discovering this whole new life. And the way that I would describe it is, the word I would use is potential, because for the first time in my life, I feel like I've got this potential to do so much. And I just had this inkling. I just knew somehow that I was going to end up somehow working in this sobriety world and helping others and showing others that, come on, hold my hand, don't be scared, I'll show you the way. And I just knew that that was in me and that it was something I wanted to do, but I didn't know how it was going to take shape. And then it's just kind of evolved naturally over the last year or so.
You just want to like let everybody know, don't you, what it's like? I was on the phone to a friend this morning. I'm meeting for a walk later, actually.
Check out our Instagram.
and she was saying this morning that she was feeling a bit blur, and the weekend she's kind of drinking, and then she's tired all week. And I was like, I just wish I could give you a taste of what it could feel like, because it's incredible. And I know she's at that point where she doesn't really enjoy what she's doing, but she cannot imagine a life without drink. And I'm like, I just wish I could show you, if you could just feel it.
That's what I say to my clients.
For a minute, and I don't want to be preachy or like, but all this sadness and tiredness and lethargicness and this anxiety that you've got every single day could just be gone. Gone. And I want to give it to everybody. And I think that's why we started what we did, because it's too good not to share.
Yeah. And it's just not talked about enough.
No,
it's just
not.
Particularly over here in Australia. And so my dream is to kind of get into, so I've now got a Facebook group, my local one for the Perth ladies, where we meet up once a month. And then I've got a bigger group with over 4,000 women now that is just all over the world, in America, in the UK, in Australia, in New Zealand, and they're all connecting. And I obviously have my coaching, but my dream is to get into the corporates and to start talking to the bigger companies about, do you understand about mental health and alcohol, and you know that you could be supporting people to have more choices. And the other thing that I've done is I've just set up Perth's first alcohol-free drinks business. So
really?
Because I was sick of the fact that there was nothing to drink. Like, honestly, over here, you cannot find an alcohol-free drink on any pub or any restaurant menu. You just wouldn't see it. So my options have only ever been Coke, lemonade, Fanta, Sprite, or water. And it just gets so frustrating when you know how many good drinks are available. Because the last time I came back to the UK, I went to Waitrose and I was like, oh my God, look at all these amazing drinks.
Yeah, there is.
And it's, you guys are so lucky over there. It's still so far behind here. But that's what I'm hoping to kind of start being able to get more into pubs and restaurants and having people being able to have choices.
Oh, that would be so good, because we are really lucky. We are. I'm disgusted if I go somewhere and they haven't. In fact, I went for a Thai on
disgusted.
I am. It disgusts me. On Saturday night, I went out for a meal with my boyfriend, and honestly, we went to this Thai restaurant, and I said, "Have you got any non-alcoholic drinks?" So he said, "Yeah," and he named 2 beers, and I thought, they're definitely not non-alcoholic, right? So my boyfriend, he said, "Oh, I'll have the same." And then I just said, "Can I just check? Are they definitely non-alcoholic?" And he went, "No." And he went, "You want non-alcoholic, both of you?" And I was like, "Yes, please." He went, "I've never been asked for that before." It was absolutely gobsmacked. And they happened to have some, like, they had one Erdinger non-alcoholic and one Heineken Zero. So we was like, right, we'll have one of each and we'll just like, but he was so shocked. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, well, you definitely should be getting more of these in for people.
It just shows you though, Lisa, because I went to a restaurant on Monday evening, quite a big chain of Italian restaurant is what I will say in the UK. And they were lovely, and they do have a really good range of non-alcoholic drinks. They have all the kind of alcohol-free cocktails, and I actually ended up having a beautiful virgin mojito, which was fantastic. But they left all the menus out and the wine menus there, and the lady came over and said, "Oh, have I given you too many menus?" And I said, "Oh yeah," and the wine menu, and she said, "Oh no, you'll like I actually went to give it back, and she said, "Oh no, you'll definitely want to keep hold of that." And I said, "Well, no, actually, I don't want to keep hold of it. I don't drink." And she went, "Oh," and she was so taken aback. So even though we're moving forward in kind of menus and options, attitudes aren't really changing yet.
I know.
People are still shocked.
I know. Well, one of my friends sent an email to she was going to this big function, you know, where you pay like loads of money and all your drinks and foods included, and she emailed them to say, "I don't drink alcohol, but I don't want to stand out as looking like I don't, so can I bring some alcohol-free champagne and I'll drink it out of a champagne glass so that it looks like I'm the same as everyone else?" So they sent her an email back and they said, "On this one occasion, we will let you do it, but please never tell anyone that we're allowing you to drink an alcohol-free champagne on our premises."
Oh, I actually want the name and address and email.
Like, what? So, oh my God, a woman is choosing not to drink alcohol, and this cannot be advertised against your business. Like, wow.
That's made me fuming inside that. That's made me really mad. You know what else has made me mad today? I don't know whether you've seen
I know what she's going to say, because I was going to say the same thing. It's made me mad.
We've been tagged in it on Instagram today, and I'll call them out. It's Silk Thread, a clothing brand. And they have put an advert out today saying the first day back at the office. It's like a reel, and it's got this girl sat there and she's got the jitters. She's shaking like this, and she picks up a tub of
It's lunch break, isn't it? It's lunch break, and she shakes her head to not go.
And she picks up a tub of Pringles, shaking it, and there's a bottle hidden in it. Why are they advertising that? I don't even get it. I don't even know what the hell that they're doing. Like an actual big brand. And then these people, like a couple of our ambassadors, have commented on it. Yes.
Tagged us in.
Tagged us in. But and then these people like, "Oh, I love this blouse." And we're like, why are you advertising pure alcoholism for monetary gain, for people to look at your clothes? Like, what?
I love the earrings. Why didn't people know? I love those earrings. Why has nobody noticed the fact that this supposed, she's obviously acting, but this young woman has clearly got a drink problem. Like,
they're actually showing a jitter hiding a bottle in a tub of.
It's the most bizarre. It's achieving what they want it to achieve, and I think that's the thing, because it's not being ignored. It's either getting lots of "ha ha, that's hilarious," or "this is disgusting, take it down." So in terms of its algorithms, it's going to be viral by the end of the day, and that's why they've done it. But can you imagine if you picked on anything else? Yeah. Any disability, any difference? And I'm not suggesting it is.
Heroin at the dinner at the desk. Yeah. Because it is, people looking at, "Oh, it's not the same." Actually, it is.
It really is. Just because it's legal does not mean it's harmless. We keep saying this on our podcast. But it is the most harmful drug there is. And the fact that it's legal makes it even more harmful because people don't know it is.
And I think
exactly.
This is why, if you can get into corporate places and show that learning, I think it's so important, because I think they just don't know, or they don't know how to help. Again, when you go to some businesses, if they know people are drinking or have a drink problem, they're worried about how to approach it in a kind of like, how can we tell them off kind of way, rather than a how can we help kind of way. So there's definitely so much learning to be done. If you can get yourself out there, I think it'll be amazing. It really will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's so much to be done over in Australia. There's so much to be done everywhere. Like, God, the whole world needs to be sorted out. But yeah, step by step, baby steps.
And there's no one better to do it than sober people, because like you said, we're all or nothing.
Exactly.
We're going sober, so is the world.
Exactly.
We're obviously gonna share your links and your website, but just, you know, to verbalize that, where can people who want to find you find you? We've got lots of women in our community who I definitely think would benefit from joining your group and from following you. So do you want to just share your links?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. It's just SLR Wellness. And then my Facebook group is called the Women's Wellbeing Collective. And I do live interviews. I interviewed Claire Pooley the other week. I interviewed William Porter. I've interviewed Janie Lee Grace. So I do lots of live interviews, and they're all free. And then I run challenges once a quarter, which will be to support people in sobriety. And then I do grey area drinking coaching one-on-one with women and I work with women all over the world, because obviously that's the power of Zoom, right? But what I also do is I find that once women stop drinking, they then have that whole question of, well, who am I without booze? If all I've done is used alcohol as my coping mechanism for the last 20 years or whatever it is, then what next? And so I've created a group coaching program called Rediscovering Me. And that's got about 10 women per group, and the women just form really close bonds while they're doing it. But we look at everything from, we define our values, we look at what are our limiting beliefs that hold us back, what are our strengths.
It's all right, carry on, Sarah. She's obviously just been interrupted.
Yeah, and we look at who are the people in our life, who's influencing us, and really kind of dive deep into evaluating our life and doing kind of a bit of a audit on what's happening and what we need to change, because I find that once we give up the booze, we then need to kind of go on a bit of a deep dive into, well, who the hell am I now? And I think that what the program is that I've created has been kind of everything that I've learned over 2 years condensed into quite an in-depth 8-week program with lots of homework, lots of resources shared, because I'm really passionate about, it's not just about taking out the alcohol. It's about, if I take out the alcohol, what am I adding in? Because if all we do is take out the booze, then we're just hanging on for dear life. Whereas if we actually start to put in new coping strategies, new coping mechanisms, if we're starting to work out, what do I need? What fills me up? What do I do for fun? What's my fun plan today? Who are the people that I can rely on? Who are my connections? What are my values? Am I living aligned to my values? If we start to look at that stuff, then we start to create a life that we don't want to escape from with alcohol.
Honestly, Sarah, like Lisa said, I could just talk to you all day, because you've just got so much wisdom to share, and what you're doing is amazing, and you should be really, really proud of yourself. It's incredible what you're doing. I feel really honoured to have spoken to you today.
Yeah, I do. And I'm so sorry about my mum knocking on the door. I'm going to give her a call out, because she actually listens to these podcasts, and she definitely knew, Mum, that I had a podcast at 10:30 today. She'll knock on my door anyway.
Thank you so much. Would you just hang on at the end once we stop recording, Sarah, if that's all right?
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on, ladies.
Oh, thanks so much for coming on.
Time to talk to us. Really grateful. Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye.